Hello, and welcome to God and Autobiography, the podcast. I'm your host, Scott Langdon. On today's episode, we have a very special spiritual story. Recently, Jerry sat down with our very own Laura Buck, and the two had a wonderful conversation about Laura's spiritual journey. Throughout the course of her life, Laura has always had a sense of a deeper connection between herself and something inside of her, perhaps a higher self. She has since come to understand that connection as God moving in her life, and with that understanding has moved into a more peaceful time in her life, despite some very difficult challenges. It was such a joy for me to hear Laura open up and share herself in this way, and I know you'll get a lot out of this conversation as well. Here's Jerry to start things off. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Well, thank you, Laura Buck, for joining me to talk about your spiritual story. I often say everybody has a story. It doesn't have to be just religious people or spiritually, guru people, but everybody has a story. And I find stories of just boundless interest, because everyone has a path and they make choices in response to different circumstances, and they make them with some end in view, for a reason, not a reason, just kind of slipped into a situation. But every story starts somewhere, and people's spiritual story usually starts with early life, maybe a religious story, raised in a certain church, or a spiritual story, or just where the person's spiritual story starts out with family circumstances or something like that, just things that happen that shape their story thereafter. But if you were going to tell your story to your best friend, where would you begin your story? Just what were the formative moments of your early life?
Okay. Well, first, thank you for having me. I know it's been a long time coming. You've asked me so many times and we've just never had a chance to make this happen. Basically, I really wasn't raised with any kind of organized religion. So my parents got divorced when I was around 2. My mom and my mom's side of the family, they weren't really a practicing of any real religion. My grandparents were, but my dad and my stepmom were very Catholic. That was something that was very important to them. And I just remember there was not an argument, but there was kind of a power push, I think, between my dad and my stepmom insisting that I go to Sunday school and become Catholic. And my mom, she didn't want me to feel pressured. So that never really happened. But I would see my dad on the weekends and they would take me to church on Sundays. I just remember being, why are you making me go at 7 a.m? And I just remember being there, and I liked the church that they went to. So it wasn't a bad thing by any means, but it was more or less presented to me as something that I had to do versus something that I really wanted to do. So I didn't really have a choice. So I didn't receive communion or do any of that. I didn't really have the full experience. When I would visit my mom's parents, my grandparents. My one aunt would always go to church for Christmas or Easter or whatever. I remember going with them when they would come from New York and we'd all be together, going for the holidays, just feeling left out because I wasn't Catholic and everyone else was receiving communion, and I would just sit there and be because as you're younger, you feel kind of left out. Everyone else gets up and goes and you're sitting there. So kind of in a way that was kind of, I didn't really understand that it didn't matter, but I just remember feeling a little uncomfortable with that, but not enough that I was hey, I want to, it just wasn't that important to me as a kid. Just like I said, I felt like I was forced to go to church with my dad. And then it just kind of was always a negative thing, I guess. I guess I was around 13 or 12. We had really great friends that my mom and we lived on a farm with another family. We lived upstairs and they lived downstairs. They were very born again Christian. So I was exposed to a lot of that. And I remember thinking a lot of the conversations were that everything, you had to thank Jesus or God for everything that you did. Everything was affected by them. Like nothing could just occur. Like where it was always like, this was God's will, or God's doing this, or God's doing that. And I remember thinking, I wasn't really sure about that. And I did go to their church like quite a few times. I joined like a group there.
Was that voluntary, going to their church?
It was, because I really did like them. We were like,
so that was your first really voluntary.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I'll go, because they talked to me. Like I went to this little group called Pioneer Girls. I had a friend, my other friend went with me that I was really close with. We went together and like I liked that, but then it came to a point like after like a few, I don't know, times that we were together, the people who were running our little group were like, okay, we're all going to go in a circle now and we're all going to pray and we're all going to give like our hearts to Jesus. This is what we're going to do like now. Right. And I remember thinking like, okay, so we got in the circle and we all prayed. If you feel like you want to have Jesus enter your heart and be saved and born again, we had our eyes closed, like raise your hand or whatever. And I didn't feel that because I just didn't. And we finished that. And I remember my best friend at the time, she had raised her hand and I didn't know that. So they kind of separated us out. So like some of us that didn't, and then she was in a different group. So I kind of felt like, oh, I honestly didn't feel that I wanted to do that. Like, I think if I honestly had felt something, I would do that, but I didn't feel like any kind of connection. But then again,
being honest, that's a good principle.
Right. I didn't feel like I had to because I needed to belong. I just felt like I didn't feel that. But then again, I felt like an outcast a little bit again, because then there was that group, that the little group that did that and accepted that. And then kind of was like, again, feeling like a little left out with my choices. We didn't stay in that group very long because like then we were becoming teenagers, I guess. But I just remember that feeling of like, you know, I know I didn't make a mistake, but I wasn't like a bad person. So that was different. I felt when I was younger that I had to like maybe become Catholic, but I didn't feel the pressure here. But I also felt like I didn't feel the pressure to do it because I didn't feel it. Then I went to a Catholic college because I wanted a small college. I wanted more like almost like an all-girls college, but I went to a Catholic college, but not because I was Catholic. And it turned out too, everybody there wasn't Catholic. So it was okay with that too. I worked for like some of the nuns there who were like lovely. That was like a great thing. I really appreciated them. So that was like a really good experience, just getting to know them. And some of my professors were just like amazing people. And I just really loved that. So that was a great experience that way. But there was like, my mom has this memory of calling me on a Sunday morning at my dorm when the phones were always out in the hallway. And I wasn't in my room. Who knows? We were probably out like all night as college kids do. And someone answering the phone and she asked for me. And my friend said, oh, no, she's not here. She's at church. And my mom thinking, oh, no, that's not.
This can't be.
Sorry, that's my
Laura,
dog.
I know. Laura, your story so far is fascinating in the following regard, that you were subjected to so many different religious influences, different religions. And of course, the people are embodying those religions. A lot of one's reaction isn't to the religion as an abstract embodiment or even the ceremony, what happens in church, but it's the people. And some you liked. So I don't think you hated anybody or any church, but you felt a great distance from some of them, like, why am I here? And but some you liked. And I think of the spiritual journey and a lot of other aspects of our life, too, as sort of following breadcrumbs or some ancient myth or something where the path through the labyrinth is by following some breadcrumbs and kind of clues that come along in life. And are there breadcrumbs that you found, clues that kind of help steer your journey from the point you've described on into to the woman you are now?
I never really felt that there wasn't, like, I didn't really question if there was a God or not. So that was the other thing too. So I always kind of knew that there's some kind of somebody, you know, there. And I would pray at night. So I never felt, like this is nonsense or anything. I just always knew that there was something there. So I would kind of just pull that in if I was feeling, just sad or whatever. I do remember doing that for the longest time. I also remember my friend who was with me in that group. We would watch on TV this guy, Oral Roberts or something.
Yes.
And I remember we gathered our money together and we mailed away for some little crystal statue. There was not a statue, it was just something with a Bible verse on it. And I remember that being a really interesting thing for us. We were just ooh, we thought,
oh, that's interesting.
Kind of interesting, right? Because I don't know if a lot of kids watched that show at the time.
Yeah.
Yes, I do remember that. That was pretty fascinated with that. Just, seeing someone else, not in a church setting, but just preaching, I guess, kind of.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing I wasn't focusing on, going to church and whatever, people's affiliations. But these days, even more.
Yeah.
They're the media. And you can get anything come right into your own living room. And a huge impact are people who religious teachers and preachers who really have a flair for television and so forth, and really project, and that can affect people in various ways depending on the individual.
And I've told you this so many times before. I always had a feeling about things that were going to happen, right? I always had I felt and I used to say it was my gut response to things. There was something that we wanted to do or I wanted to do, and I would get this nagging feeling in my gut. I remember not just thinking it was I don't know. I don't even know if we knew what anxiety was back then, right? The mental health wasn't a big thing, right?
Anxiety is a big thing now, but it wasn't back then.
Right. So I look back on that. It wasn't I was anxious. There was just some things that I really knew deep down I didn't want to do, or maybe something I shouldn't do. And I never really knew what that was until years later, probably in my early adulthood. There's a reason why things happen the way they do. And I have the choice to let them happen or not happen. Right. So if I had that feeling and I went ahead with it anyway and did whatever I was thinking maybe I shouldn't do, and then it turned out, I didn't have a good time, or it just wasn't something that I should have really done or whatever, then I would be what's telling me that, what's leading me that way. Right.
Something inside you is responding in advance.
Yeah.
Upcoming events, possibilities, and so forth.
Yeah.
And doing a rather good job of it, I gather.
Right. And not thinking that I could be a message from anybody, outside the universe. I just thought it was just something inside me saying it, right? I knew. But now it's different for me that way.
How so?
And I haven't really realized a lot of that until I started working with you. I feel like it's always been God telling me what to do. Or, you're going to go this way, but you feel funny about it. So maybe it's not the best thing to do. And then if I don't go somewhere or do something, and then I feel fine and nothing bad happens. I'm just saying things I remember being really, when my daughter was 4, we were up in the Poconos, and I remember going, because this was significant. I remember being I don't know if we should really go up there there was just something that was bothering me. I remember we went and she ended up getting really sick up there. And we had to take her to the hospital because she was dehydrated. And like,
Oh,
I remember coming home from that and thinking, something told me not to go, but we did. And then that happened, right? Like maybe if we were home, she would have still probably gotten sick, but like it was so much more stressful because we were, you know, somewhere. We've never been to a hospital there. Like things like that. I just know to like listen to that now. Not to say that
yeah.
everything bad happens, but yeah, maybe it does. It's just like a guidance or whatever. Or if I have to make a choice about something, I just listen to that now. More
Yeah.
more that I feel like there's a reason why I'm feeling this way. Like,
So you've learned to trust your feelings,
yes.
and the feelings aren't just inner flux,
No.
They're perceptions in a sense. They're somehow insights or intuitions
Yeah.
of something that maybe you shouldn't do, or maybe you should do. Maybe you have some positive ones, I don't know.
Yeah.
But those are things you learn going along, and something I'm told over and over in God and Autobiography and my prayers, the many, many ways God communicates, and feelings are among them. I'm told even at one point, I think, your body, the feelings of your body are the voice of God, that your body is a divine instrument, and what people say to you, listen to that. That may be God speaking to you through them. They are calling your attention to something.
Right.
And certainly the kind of feelings you're talking about, so I got this deep inner feeling that this is not for me, not a
Right.
do.
Right. When I saw the job to work with you and I saw it online and I went, oh, I'm going to get this job. Like I just knew it. I just knew it. Like I went, yep, I'm going to end up getting this job. And then I met you guys and then I got the job. And it was just like, it was really, I mean, I'm looking at a bunch of different things and it was like this or this. And I'm like, oh, this is the one. And like, it just kind of led me to answer, right? I could have answered anything else. And then I ended up with you. So I just feel like that was like a definite like nudge that way.
And certainly from my side, that has been so providential. I do not use that concept carelessly.
Yeah.
I don't have the feeling that God is rigging the scene all
Right. Right.
the time.
Right.
But God does sometimes put his divine thumb helpfully on the scale. So the better thing, and certainly in that case, uh, God sending you to me, I had a much narrower job I was hiring you for in my mind than what you ended up offering
Right.
to the whole God project that we're engaged in. And so, how is that? I wouldn't have known to hire you for this to be what I think of as chief operating officer of the whole God project. But I wouldn't have known how to advertise for that or anything. I just needed
Right.
a certain businessy type things. And but yeah, that's so helpful when people learn. You're in a situation. You can go this way, that way. How do you know what way to go? There are always, in any given moment, many possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
But if they got some kind of pause and pay attention to what's going on inside you,
Mm-hmm.
then you may learn just what you need to know about
Mm-hmm.
going forward.
I never
Yeah,
felt like I needed to be in an organized religion as far as telling me like, I have to go on this day and pray and do this to know that God's around me or, God loves me or my family. Like I can find it anywhere. Like I could find it in this room. I could find
yeah,
it in my car. I could find it, wherever I am, outside, um, things like that. There's messages like all the time, but
yeah,
you just have to like look for them.
yeah.
And
You kind of have to be open and be paying attention. But yeah, it can be anywhere. That's a wonderful statement. There's nowhere God is absent, but what God is trying to communicate to you does require some attention
yeah,
and acceptance. If
and
you're,
be open to that. And
yeah,
and also like, I think I told you the one time too, that I was feeling like really anxious. when I was, I guess, with my uncle being sick and everything, and just feeling like really out of control. My emotions were really hard, and just kind of feeling like almost like a panic attack kind of a thing, and just like driving, just going, okay, like I got to deal with this. And then this like calm just went over me, and it just like, it was like there was a religious station that only comes, I always listen to NPR, to public radio, like when I'm in the car. But when I get up to the Poconos, that station turns into like a religious like music station. And the music's like really great, actually. It's like modern, like rock music or whatever, Christian music. And I remember this song coming on. I was listening to it and I was so stressed. And then just like something just came over me. It was like almost like a warm blanket or something. And it all just calmed down like instantly. And I was like, okay, I'm good. Like, and it was so fascinating to me because that was like the first time I really had that. But I really felt like there was something saying, it's going to be okay. You're not alone.
Was it through the words of the music, or just the music brought the divine presence?
It might have been. Some of the music is so beautiful and really, it just is really like just the message in it. Yeah, it probably was that. If I was listening to just people talking, no, but it just like everything just came at the right time and just kind of calmed things.
Yeah.
So
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that was like a really, like, I was like, whoa.
And when that happens once, isn't this true for you, Laura? When it happens once, then you retain it. May not happen again in that way,
Yes.
but it tells you something about the nature of reality and of God and of you.
Yeah.
That ultimately there is something safe.
Yes, exactly. Or just like having someone, I've had people really close to me pass away. I've been like really involved with that. Never feeling like scared for them or, knowing that I think they're going to be okay or that I'm going to see them again. Like, I really honestly I believe that. Like, I don't feel like this is the final goodbye. Like when someone's dying in hospice and you're like, you have to say goodbye. I never feel like I have to say goodbye.
Yeah, well, why don't you give us some background? We're talking about your Uncle Bob, who I gather was like a father to you.
Yeah.
And I saw the photo of him after his passing, but I mean, he's one of those people you could just tell at a glance, what a fine fellow.
Yeah.
Solid. What I don't know, the Germans or the Jews or somebody call a mensch,
Yeah. Right.
full man, full person. And that's my take on, just looking at him. You might, he deserves a moment of our consideration. Someone lives a life, then, well, it shouldn't not just a blimp on the radar that comes and goes, but we should really take it in and ponder it, even if it's someone we didn't know personally. Here's a life worth paying attention to and taking in, considering. But just say a little bit about who Uncle Bob was and what he was to you.
Oh, yeah. So my Uncle Bob, my dad passed away like 2018 or whatever. My Uncle Bob kind of stepped in to be like my dad. So sorry. He and my dad were like good friends because my mom's side of the family and my dad's side of the family, everyone grew up together. So he just was really, he was just a really special person and always, sorry, but he just always would check in with me. So I always felt like really, I had a lot of conversations with him every week. He would call me and we would talk for like an hour or so. Everyone would kind of joke that when Uncle Bob would call you had to make sure you had enough time because he was great at recapping your whole entire conversation when you say, I got to get off the phone now. And he'll go, well, like I was saying, and he would like recap.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like really, but I was just very close to him. I saw him so much. And when he became sick with mesothelioma, that was like, it's like I said, I'd been through cancer before, with my dad and my stepmom. So I kind of knew what to expect. So it was just, we had a great opportunity for a few years that he was around and good and we could, see him. And, it's unfortunate that where he worked all those years being exposed to asbestos, that this would happen. Right. But he always said that, he'd always say, don't worry about me. I'm going to be fine. And, he had a great life, had a lot of friends, really close with his family. So like, he wasn't like afraid of that, like of passing away, or he never really said that. I would just kind of joke that like he could be really stubborn. So I'm like, Uncle Bob, you're so stubborn. You're going to be around a long time because there's a reason why you need to be around. So, and then all of a sudden, yeah, things just kind of went downhill like this past couple months. So seeing him go through that was hard. And he passed away like really suddenly.
But after months of lingering,
yes,
it seemed to me good because it meant a lot of time to say goodbye, in effect, to have last moments. It's not as if nobody knew anything was wrong and oops, now he's dead.
Right. And that was very important for me to go and be there as much as I could and visit him. And just knowing like he had support, right? Like we all knew, we were all there for him.
It's another blessing if he passed away quickly when it finally came to it.
Yes, which was something that we all wanted because who wants to see somebody suffer? I've seen that and it's terrible and nobody wanted that for him. So that was like a good thing. You had asked me if I felt anything, his presence after he passed away, and I did not.
Right.
I didn't feel sad about that. I felt like that means everything is okay. Right. That's how I felt. Like, I'm like, I think that if there was, if things weren't okay, maybe I would feel uncomfortable. The funny thing is that the last time that we were up there, I was sleeping and I heard this like squawking and I'm like, what the heck is that? And I get up and I look out the window and literally there are these 4 cranes, like they're like 3 foot high. They're outside in the yard. And like, I had never seen them before. I knew people had seen them, but they have never been like on the property. And I remember my daughter Isabella telling me the day of his repass, she had stayed back because she wasn't feeling well, that she had seen like these 4 cranes like fly by. And she was like, that was really strange. So I went outside and I tried to get close to them and I videotaped all 4 of them. And I'm like, they were crazy. They were squawking and and I'm like, I have never seen that before. Later in the day, they came back and they're walking around again. And I'm like, what is with like, they're just here. And then I'm like, okay. So my grandmother and grandfather loved that lake and fished it and they passed away. My Uncle Steve passed away like 2 months before my Uncle Bob and he loved that lake and Uncle Bob loved that lake. And I was like, wow. That is my grandmother, my grandfather, and my 2 uncles. They're together. They're happy. And like, I seriously feel like their spirits were there going like, everything's good. And they did not come back after that. And I just felt like this genuine, like, look,
they're doing fine.
They're doing fine. I mean, I think you can come back in different ways and show people that things are good. Some people might think that's like really strange, but I honestly was like, that's why they're there. We had never seen them before until after he passed. And I just feel like that's just comforting to me. So I just feel that he's good. So I get really sad, but then I get really like, okay.
Well, one misses them, but that doesn't mean that they're not well, that you just miss them.
Yeah, you're going to miss them because that's what they part of you. But I guess as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that's just a part of life. It's like life is a series of hellos and goodbyes, right? So people come in and out. Just getting older, it's just more permanent that way.
Yeah.
People leave us, but it's okay.
But I wanted to ask you about somebody else in your life.
Yes.
Your dog.
Yes. Fizzy.
You have said to me things. I've never owned a pet. I've never been quite pet oriented. Wouldn't want to take care of one. For one thing, it's too much responsibility. But you have said at various times, this dog, and I don't think you had previously owned dogs. You were not
we never.
dog person, but you got a dog, and you said, described him as an old soul.
Yeah.
And you said, I have learned so much from that dog.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, if you can, this may be more, and to me, that's just a kind of wonderment that that could be a true description of a dog. I don't doubt it. I've had, from observation, I'm not a dog owner, and yet I found them fascinating creatures. And I've read some things about the early rise of civilization, and it seems dogs may have had a big role in socializing people because they're such natural connectors, you might say, and responders to people's feelings. Talk about empathy.
Oh, yeah.
Dogs seem to just go right in there, and so I know that just from observing people and their dogs, but I have not, it still doesn't quite, I don't know how to interpret the dog as an old soul or a dog from which you learn a lot, but maybe you can interpret that for me. What does that mean to you? And in what ways? What have you learned? In what ways have you learned, or does the dog show the dog's wisdom?
Yeah, right. We never had a dog here as a family. I never really had like a dog. Like I had a horse and a goat and a hamster. And
so you had a lot of things.
And they was just like, but yeah, when we got Fizzy, she was a gift from my daughter's godfather who said, Izzy, what do you want for your birthday? And she was like in 8th grade. She's like, I want a dog. And we were like, okay. And I'm like, I don't want a dog. And I think I know we get a call and he's like, I got Izzy a dog. And we're like, what? So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with a dog? I don't know what to do with a dog. I'm like, the dog's never going to go on the couch and the dog's never going to do this and that. And like, so we had Fizzy and she's, so yeah, not having grown up with dogs, there's just times when, and it sounds like this is again, that I feel like she's an old soul. I feel like she's either someone I knew or I just believe that when we die, our energy just doesn't disappear. I feel like it just goes somewhere and it can go into a tree or it can go. Anyway, she just has this way, and I'm sure most dog owners would know. They look at you with so much unconditional love and care that you're like, there's something very spiritual in that. I remember like when thinking like one time she just would just like look at me, like I'll be like, what do you like? She's just staring at me and I'll be like, Dad. Like I'm like, is somebody like in there? Because like there's just like this connection. Sometimes at night watching TV or it's just her and I, and she'll just like look around like she's looking at something is like really interesting to me because like there's absolutely nobody in the room. She'll kind of look around like following something. And then sometimes I'll get this like warm like happiness from that. So it's like either she's seeing something or, somebody's around me or, she just kind of just shows me something like she's trying to communicate. But anyway, when I've been sad, like as all dogs do, they just come to you and they know you're sad and they just kind of want to be next to you because they want to take care of you. And I find that really extraordinary. And I feel like it is something, right? Is it God saying, I'm here too, right? I don't have doubts with that either. I'm not saying that Fizzy can't be her own soul, but I really feel like dogs have souls. And most, dog owner, I haven't gone through like a death of a pet like that. And I know friends who have, and I think about it all the time because she's older. But I also think about, what she's brought to me, and her, like her wisdom with that. Like, I just feel like she's a soul that I always knew.
Do you feel at this point in life that a particular sense of, I always use the word trajectory. What I really mean is direction in a kind of dynamic sense, kind of, is there, where are you going in life? Do you have a sense of direction, or that the previous life has been a preparation for a next stage?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just a deepening or mellowing or something of where you've come to, or what? What's through the next door? What do you
Right.
through the next door?
A few years ago, a friend and I went to the Buddhist center, the next town over, for like a while. And I found that I really loved that. But I got away from that just because life got really crazy. My kids were still home. And I've taken a lot from that, as far as I want to go back to that, actually, because a lot of it has to do with the suffering. In Buddhism, you want to get like away from the suffering. And it taught me a lot about how to manage suffering and just clearing your head and being in the now, meditating and just being like, you're here now versus you're not your past, you're not your future, but like to feel like what you feel now. I want to become more centered like that, because I feel like, just getting older, I feel like that's a more positive direction for me to go in, where I'm not. See, I guess it's like this. I'm spiritual, but not religious, right? We've talked about that. Like, I've learned a lot of that from you and from people, um, and TWW and all that. But I feel like if I had to pull something back in, that's something that I want to look more towards. I feel like that's something very personal, and it's more about you as a spirit and an energy versus just I don't feel like I need to be like to pull in any other kind of religion. I don't feel like I have to be committed to a religion. Like, if I'm gonna die, like, is God gonna be, am I gonna go to heaven? So I don't have like that worry. I just think that for just getting older and processing just the way life goes, that I think that it gives me more of a direction that way. I've had that pull in the last like couple weeks. I kind of see me kind of settling in with something like that, and looking more towards being like one with, I guess, more being one with me, like the voice inside of me who's been with me since. We all have that voice, right? But
Yeah,
like to be more with that person that's there, that voice inside of me, or my soul, or whatever. I feel like that's where I want to go,
yeah,
because I feel like I will have a lot of peace with that. Because, like I said, as you get older, life gets harder, I think, just because of losses and things like that. I think I could not benefit from that. I just think that's just a direction I'm just being led to, I guess, explore more.
it sounds as if that inner self, if we use that term for what you described,
Mm-hmm.
um, um, really has drawn out the wisdom from the experiences you've had.
Yeah.
Most of our lives are lived in terms of social role, personality, dealing with things, around us, the hurly-burly of life, and in conventional ways, just in the way called upon our by being a mother or next door neighbor or
Yeah.
whatever. But there's meanwhile a kind of inner self or soul, or different traditions use a different term, but a lot of traditions have a distinction between your personality, your self that's going through life, that you've got
Right.
a resume about, did this, did that, did the other thing, and a deeper dimension that has some almost eternal connection,
Yeah.
because it's always there. That's why people
Yeah.
talk about the now.
Yeah.
It's always now.
Yeah.
Things you've done go in the past, anticipated events in the future, they briefly pass through, But meanwhile, there's always the self with capital S, maybe,
Yeah.
soul that's right here.
Right.
And kind of takes it all in.
Right.
And
But I feel has done it before, because I honestly feel at times, no, I feel like a lot that I've already done this before.
yeah. So,
This is where I am now, but like this was my other journey. Like, I just feel like I've been like, I guess, reincarnated. I just feel like I've been on a lot of different journeys.
yeah.
So I look at it sometimes like this journey, like, what have I learned from this journey? Right. Like,
Yeah.
and I really, like, I've always had dreams like that since I was little, of just like growing up in different places or being in different, and I always would dream the same stuff. So, I was always really, well, I've always been like I love like mystery, not mystery, just like this. I guess that's spirituality of that, or just the, I don't know how to put it. I was just always very curious about like past lives.
Yeah.
Done like a past life regression, and I didn't think like it was silly. I thought it's very real. So I feel like this journey that I'm on is like, it may be tragic in some ways, but yeah, I'm just like learning about suffering, right? So sometimes I'm like, why do I encounter all of that? And I know there's people who encounter so much more than me, but is it to help other people with that? Being a mom, like, I went from being me, then being a wife, and then being a mom. And like in that journey, there is no time for like you. Like, as far as in my life, there wasn't a time for me. I was always mom. But then when my kids left, I mean, they didn't really leave. They're still, but I mean, when empty nesting is, that's when you're like, okay, who am I now?
Yes, exactly.
Because I wasn't really myself then, but now I'm myself then. And that's what I think, centering myself back to me is probably why I'm thinking more about, why, like, returning or exploring Buddhism more, is because I didn't have an opportunity to explore the inner me all these years.
Yeah.
You're
That's
kind of
one
the invisible woman kind of a thing. Like, I'm managing everybody else's life and making sure that they're okay.
That's a lot of the life of a mom, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a great, I would never have traded that for the world. But yeah, that's what I did, you know. And then my needs were like kind of, but now, as sad as it is, not to have everybody around all the time, thankfully I have my dog and my husband. But I'm just like, right. Then it's more or less like, okay, I'm back to like feeling like when I, just the curiosity that you had in life before you became all of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Laura Buck. You've had quite a spiritual journey, I must say. And I told you earlier, based on less evidence than I have at the end of this conversation, that you're a person with a lot of wisdom. And now we know why. You might say this wisdom doesn't just pop into your head one day. It's the result of the kind of journey that you've taken, and with a kind of spiritual alertness. And so it's a blessing to us all. Thank you for visiting with me.
Thank you. And I appreciate this opportunity to allow me to reflect on all of this, because it's something I think I really need to do. Thank you, Jerry.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you for listening to God and Autobiography, the podcast. Subscribe for free today wherever you listen to your podcasts and hear a new episode every week. You can hear the complete dramatic adaptation of God and Autobiography as Told to a Philosopher by Jerry L. Martin by beginning with episode 1 of our podcast and listening through its conclusion with episode 44. You can read the original true story in the book from which this podcast is adapted, God and Autobiography as Told to a Philosopher, available now at Amazon.com and always at godandautobiography.com. Pick up your own copy today. If you have any questions about this or any other episode, please email us at questions@godandautobiography.com and experience the world from God's perspective, as it was told to a philosopher. This is Scott Langdon. I'll see you next time.